regarding the gender and development. So we have these six are the general theories. So we have biological, sociological, psychological, cognitive, conflict, and symbolic interaction. So to give a simple sentence to what these six are. So when we say biological, these are the role of genetics, hormones, and brain structure. And when we say sociological, these are the social structures, the environment. Then psychological, our brain, our thought process. And when we say functionalism, our functions in the society. Conflict, the conflict in society, and symbolic interactionism are symbols with meanings. So I will be discussing the first three, and later on we'll be discussing the next three. So biological theories, again, these are our genetics. So when we say genetics, this is how traits are passed down from our parents. So we know that we have chromosomes 23 from our parents, 23 from our mother, 23 from our father. So despite siblings sharing the same parent, it doesn't automatically mean that they are the same, since the chromosomes passed down to each offspring is random. And when we say hormones, these are the chemical substances inside our body. So we all have differences in our hormones. So men tend to have higher levels of testosterone, while women have higher levels of oxytocin. Then we have brain structures. So our brain is differently wired and is differently structured. So example of these in gender and society, men have again higher levels of testosterone. Testosterone is connected to levels of aggression. So when we say men tend to become more dominant, it is because they have more testosterone, which makes them more aggressive, while women are expected to be nurturing since they have more oxytocin, which is known as the bonding hormone, which influences the social bonding and caregiving roles. So this is the same. So why do men and women differ in leadership as well as in relationships? It's because, again, hormones. Since we all have differences in our hormones, we act differently in leadership as well as in relationships. So a study that supports biological theories is this, wherein identical twins were separated at birth. So when we say identical twins, it means they have the same sets of chromosomes, therefore they are 99.9% the same. So even though they were separated in their environment, that means they grew up with different people, exposed to different experiences, they still develop similarities in habits, preferences, and health conditions, which means that biological theories or biological aspects play a role in the development of a person. So now let us proceed to examples of theories under biological theories. So first we have is the evolutionary psychology. To put this into simple terms, when I say evolutionary psychology, this is the evolution that happened. So our ancestors used to act in a certain way. Like for example, before our ancestors, men would be the ones who would be doing the hunting, while women would be the ones caring for their offspring. So because of that, and with the evolution, the society we have now is actually connected to our ancestors, because now it is still seen that men are expected to be the ones who will be providing for the family, while women are still expected to be the ones who care for their children. So again, when we say evolutionary psychology, this is from our ancestors influencing who we are now. Next we have is hormonal theory. So as I have mentioned earlier, we all have different hormones. So men have higher levels of testosterone, women have higher levels of estrogen and oxytocin. So with testosterone, they become more aggressive, while with oxytocin, women become more nurturing. So when we say hormonal theories, these are our differences in our hormones. Then brain structure and function. So we are all wired differently in our brains, and parts of our brains are not the same. So since we are all not the same with our brain, we still develop differences. So for example, the amygdala, a brain region associated with emotional processing, might show differences in activity levels between men and women. So since the amygdala of men and women are not the same, we all have differences in emotional processing. So some studies suggest that women's brain might be more wired for language processing, while men are for spatial reasoning. So again, brain structure and function, we have differences in our brain. Next is genetics and chromosomal theory. So as mentioned earlier, genetics is about the chromosomes that we get from our parents. So despite being there's so gametes, which are sex cells. When we have the XX chromosome, that would mean we would be genetic. We would become biologically male, and if we have the XY chromosome, then we will be biologically male. There are circumstances that although a person has the SRY or the sex determinate region Y, which makes a person biologically male, syndrome, which is the Klinefelter syndrome, may exhibit some feminine features despite having the male reproductive system. So despite having the Y chromosome, that person would still develop feminine traits. Next is the social wait. So again, the biological theories, it all talks about our genetic makeup. So next is the sociological theories. So when we say sociological theories, it is about our society. So how does institution, culture, and norms shape human behavior? When we say culture, these are shared beliefs within a group of people. And when we say norms, these are unwritten rules that everyone is expected to follow in a culture. So these play a significant role in regulating human behavior in a society. It also imparts a set of values that guide individuals' behavior and decisions. So examples of this in gender in society, the gender social equation. From childhood, boys are encouraged to be assertive, while girls are taught to be nurturing. So in our society, these traits are expected of the girls and the boys, and eventually they grow up with this and continue it on to their offspring. So workplace disparities, women are underrepresented in STEM fields due to gender stereotypes. Because of the gender stereotypes that come with our society, there comes underrepresentation in STEM fields for women. Next is, in many cultures, women are expected to do domestic work while men focus on career. Because of society, it is currently constantly being reinforced that women should be just in their household while men are expected to be providers. So because of these reinforcement that happens in our society, this becomes what we call norms. So sociologists analyze how expectations reinforce gender inequality in economic and social structures. So same goes with patriarchal societies where boys are encouraged to be dominant while women are encouraged to be submissive to boys. So let's now proceed to theories under sociological theories. So first is the structural functionalism. So by the word function, this sociological theory believes that whatever is expected to us by the society, like for example, men are the providers, women are the caregivers, what is expected from us, from the society, is because they believe that these are our functions in society in order for the society to be stable. So since if you look at it in the genetical and biological perspective, it is the strength of the women to be nurturing since they have more oxytocin. And it is the strength of men to become more dominant, to become more assertive since they have high levels of testosterone, which makes them aggressive. So since these are our strengths, then the society assumes that these are our functions in society. So they believe that in order for us to have a stable society, we should focus on what we have as strengths, and that will become our functions or roles in society. So functionalism functions in society. Then conflict theory and symbolic interactionism. So these are actually general theories as well. So these can will be later on explained this. But when you say conflict theory, these are the conflicts that happen in a society. And symbolic interactionism, these are symbols that have meaning in our society. So again, this will be explained later on by Islam. Next is social constructionism. So this theory argues that gender is not inherent, but socially constructed through cultural norms, practices, and expectations. So this means that whatever is expected to us is not inherent. It is not something biological. So when we say a man is dominant, it's not because of their genetics. They believe that it is only because of society. So this actually opposes biological theories. So this believes that despite your differences in genetic makeup, what's important is what society is trying to tell you are. So an example of this is the variation on the perceptions of masculine and feminine across cultures throughout history. So we know that what is masculine and feminine before is not constant as to what it is now, and it is not constant with other cultures. So since it is not constant, it means that it is not biological, since it is something that changes over time. So when we say social constructionism, it is what society is expecting from us and not something biological or inherent. Next we have is intersectionality by Kimberly Crenshaw. So by the term intersectionality, this means that there are intersections that happen. So it does not look only in one aspect, like for example gender, it actually looks at other aspects as well. So we consider gender, we consider race, we consider nationality, age, class. So a framework that analyzes how various social categories such as race, class, gender, sexuality intersect to create unique experiences of discrimination. So we know that everyone experiences discrimination. But in intersectionality, it believes that every one of us does not experience the same type of discrimination because we have to look at other aspects of our life. Like for example, we have two biological females. So one who is Filipino, one who is American. So let's say they are working in an American country or an American company. So although both of them will be experiencing gender stereotypes or gender inequality because they are both women, their experiences is not totally the same because we have to look or we have to consider that one of them is Filipina, one of them is American. So even though both of them are women, there are chances that the American female would still be having better opportunities compared to the Filipina women, because she is Filipina and not American. So to make it short, when we say intersectionality, this means that we have differences in the discrimination that we experience because not only do we look at gender, we also look at the differences in terms of race, in terms of class, in terms of sexuality. Next we have is the queer theory. So queer theory and postmodern, they're somewhat similar, but the differences is queer theory looks at gender only. So this theory, coined by Teresa D. Lauretis in 1990, challenges traditional binary understanding of gender and sexuality, emphasizing the fluidity and diversity of individual identities and expression. So this theory goes against the concept of binary. When we say binary, there's only two, male, female. So this theory believes that gender is a spectrum and there's no such thing as just male and just female. So you could be in between with no. You don't have to choose if you are male or female because you could be somewhere in between those two. So queer theory rejects the idea of rigid categories of gender and sexuality and promotes inclusivity for all expressions of gender and sexuality. So this is somewhat the same to postmodern and post-structuralist theories. So these theories highlight the fluidity of gender and that it can be expressed in various ways, including clothing, language, and behavior. So postmodern and post-structuralist theories are more focused on the identity of a person and not just on gender. That's why we have your clothing, language, and behavior. Next is feminist theory. So these theories challenge traditional binary understanding of gender and promote the idea of spectrum of gender identity. So again, there's spectrum. So these theories encompass a range of perspectives on critique patriarchal systems. So they are against patriarchal systems. So we have three feminism theories. The first is liberal. This focuses on achieving equal rights and opportunities for women within existing social structures. So this means that the social structure, they don't want to change the social structure. They just want it to become equal, ay to give women equal rights. So wala na silang change, diba? Gusto lang talaga nila equality. Pero yung difference ng liberal to radical feminism advocates for a more fundamental transformation of societal structures to eliminate patriarchal dominance. So dito, gusto na talaga nila tanggalin yung patriarchal dominance. So dito, gusto lang nila mag-advocate for rights, these are related to our cognitive processes. So we have psychoanalytic, behaviorism, humanism. So Albert Bandura will be explained later. And Lawrence Albert, I will also explain later. So first we have is the Simon Freud. So we know that Simon Freud has 5 stages: oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital. So Freud believed that gender identity develops during the phallic stage of psychosexual development. So children identify with the same-sex parent, internalizing their values, behaviors, and sense of gender. So this time, alam na nila na, uy, babae ako, so mag-conform ako sa kung ano ginagawa ng nanay ko. So most of the time, gagayahin ng bata yung nanay niya. Kasi interference. Ayan. And then Albert Bandura, social learning theory. So, para maalala nyo lang, si Albert Bandura yung may modal. So, sinasabi nila kay Albert Bandura na yung bata, imitate siya sa kung sino yung nakikita niya. It doesn't mean na parent may also imitate children their age. So, if people and children their age, for example, boyish, tapos babae pala siya, tapos pinagalitan siya ng teacher. So, magigets niya na, hindi ko ito gagawin kasi pagalitan yung bata. And if may positive reinforcement naman, uulitin niya yun. So, nag-develop yung child sa imitation. Agad-agad imitation. Ariella Jean Piaget and Lawrence Goldberg say sila cognitive development theory. So children actively construct an understanding of gender through cognitive development. They move through stages of understanding, eventually recognizing their own gender identity and differences between gender. Yan o yung Goldberg. So, avoiding punishment. Let's look at it sa gender perspective. So, for example, punishment. Kung ang bata, napapunish siya for playing Barbie, tapos lalaki pala siya. So, hindi na lang siya gagawa ng ganun kasi ayaw ng kapagalitan. Self-interest. Maglaro siya Barbie kasi alam niya, bibigyan siya ng reward ng nanay niya. So, self-interest person na yun. Yun. Alam niya yun. Next is kay Sandra Bell, schema. When I say schema, as I've read, schema means structures daw na nag-guide sa isang tao. So if ako, may strong ako na schema about gender, so meron akong strong guide para alam ko kung what is for male and what is for female. So these schemas influence how children process and interpret gender-related information, shaping their understanding of what is considered masculine or feminine. So may structure daw na nag-guide sa'yo kung paano maging masculine and feminine.
How come may structure din sa mag-observe?
Erickson, ilang stages is siya?
8.
So si Eric Erickson, may 8 stages siya. And you know na meron positive sides, meron negative sides, and if na-experience niya yung both, makakakuha siya ng virtue. So aside from those, nag-develop din yung gender identity ng isang tao. So this theory examines the interface between social and psychological factors, shaping gender identity and roles across lifespan. So as a person grows up, next,
Now, what do we mean by gender roles? Gender roles is the society's expectations on how people are expected to behave, act, and the way they dress, so that they conduct ourselves based on their assigned sex. Now, the functionalism in sociology is view society as a collection of interconnected structures that help maintain a society. So the basic idea of it is that when we see functionalism, they view society as a living organism. Every part, such as government, family, schools, has its own function to maintain, to provide stability to the society. And in that case, according to functionalists, gender roles have developed efficiently, have developed to make society function efficiently. Traditionally, in tradition, men work outside, women manage the family life. Because this division helps community, supposedly helps community thrive. What does this mean in gender? Because functionalism in gender, which means dad goes out from work, and mom manages the family or takes care of the kids. Takes care of the kids. And that point of view, in functionalism, the criticisms behind functionalism is that it tends to justify inequality, that that's just how things need to. The second one is today's world, rigid gender expectations, limit talent, and limit economic potentials and waste talents. The second one is that and it doesn't account both for rapid social changes like women entering workforce. So the problem with the functionalism is that it tends to explain why gender has developed dramatically in recent decades. Now let's talk about the first theories of functionalism. Structural functionalism. We define what gender is as gender is a social concept that influences nearly every aspect of human life. And about that, structural functionalism defines a complex society. Both parts work together to promote stability. Like men being the breadwinner, having no leadership, which is what we call the instrumental roles. And women being the caregiver and the emotional support. Those divisions is what we call equal theories, Talmud, Farsan, and Lower Wales, that describes nuclear economy as having the division of labor and maintaining society's needs within its adaptive structure. In that case, widely important. Now let's talk about the sex role theory. We see sex role theory, which means that developed by John Money and Mark Burkhardt in the 1970s. The gender roles are primarily shaped by roles biological. Like roles in which we have should be based on the sex which you are. If you are a female, you are supposed to be working, and it is not befitting for a woman to work outside, work in external, while men or feminist movements that challenge power imbalances, and explaining persistent workplace discrimination. And at last is developing policies that can address is what we call structural development policies. The criticisms behind it is that the function or the conflict theory overlooks the cooperation between genders and how an individual works around structural limitations. Now we are going to talk about behind this
mabilis man. Kasi may konting indikit. Kaya may isip, mag-aantay ko man. Sa backyard, sa backyard. Hindi na ba ha? Ate, nag-isip ko siya sa list. Oo. Sige, sige,
I-explain mo na ang ito sa one sentence na ibubang.
Tapos na. Tapos na?
Iya kan gini.
Oh, just in case may quiz.
Nagkakait, hindi ka nagigit na ba?
Oh, ha? With women in development. What? Women and development. God, gender and development. So, women, pakinggan niya, women in development. So, go na with, ipapasok pa lang ang women in development. So, bakit? Dati, di ba, puro lalaki lang talaga mag-work. So, yung sa with, pwede na ipapasok-work ang women. So, pasok na sila sa workforce. With. What? Women and development. So, although nakapasok ng women sa workforce, hindi pa rin siya equal. So, ang goal ng what, gawing equal yung men and women sa workforce. With what? Pero, huwag naman puro women lang. Dapat kasama yung gender. Kaya may God. Ina to? With what God? May tanong? Wala. Bio, genetics, sociological, society, psychology, psychological, behavior, thoughts, functionalism,
Function na.
functions in society, functions sa society, conflict, mga conflict,
Confidence.
ano, patriarchal, symbolic, symbol, symbols,
Basta interaction is symbolic.
symbols. May tanong kayo wala? Ayan, ready na? Yes.
Yes, hindi makapangin. General idea of something.
Yun daw yung mag-guide.
Example, nagigamit ko parang yung mga bata kaya, pero nagigamit sa tabi, tumatalog sa mga basic, tapos may nakita ko tumatalog, naisip ko, maganda yung tumalog kasi nakalog ang tatay ko, so may schema ka na already. Naisip ko mga basis na, may basis. Kimberly. Hindi ka pa na Kimberly. Psychological number yan. Yan lang, yun lang.
Ano ba yung Kimberly?
Si Karl Marx of experience. Ako gumawa ng